We've got McDonald's earnings today, and the company is not painting the rosiest picture of the economy. Mickey D's saying that Americans are cutting back, especially younger Americans, and they are not alone. Cava also slashing its sales forecast again. And brands from Coca-Cola to Chipotle, Brian's favorite, say that they're seeing the same thing, a widening gap between customers who are trading down and those who don't have to. The wealthy are spending, but the working class is trimming their value meals. Lou, how do you see this? I was just looking at all the stocks, and I was talking to Charles Payne earlier today. So the retail spider, the XRT, is down 6% in the last month.
Consumer discretionary has not been a very strong performing sector. It's sending mixed signals about the strength of the consumer. I think this is indicative of that. You're seeing value consciousness. But at the same time, I want to point out, and I know we always bring this up in tandem with these consumer stocks, but GLP-1 drugs are now going to be the best-selling drugs in the country now, outpacing Merck's Keytruda at over $30 billion a year. So think about that. That was a cancer drug. Now this is a weight loss drug. And you're pairing that with higher costs of food and less consumption. I think this is a trend that you really have to be careful with. Like Chipotle, I don't want to pick on Brian when he's not here.
Do it.
But that stock is not just suffering from sensitivity, economic sensitivity. It's suffering from brand staleness and just inconsistency, which is the bellwether of good franchises. It's everything is the same. I think McDonald's is very similar, right? They're going to bring out the value meal. I remember when hamburgers and cheeseburgers were 59 and 69 cents. When they get north and meals are costing $15 to $20, I'm not going to McDonald's. I'm going to find some other way.
Can I add on to that? The problem is the price got so expensive, it's no bargain anymore.
Right.
And if you're a health-conscious consumer, which many of our consumers are in America, not everybody, but more are, you also realize since the inflation crisis under Joe Biden, the quality of these cheap places, dining restaurants, the quality's gone down. You're using worse oils, cheaper meats. And so I do think there's a segment of the population sitting back and saying, I'm paying more for this. I'm getting less food and less quality. Maybe there is an alternative, and the cheapest alternative would be packing a snack from home.
We were talking about the stock performance, and I think I'm surprised because they introduced about a year ago that $5 meal deal, and it really resonated with a lot of people who felt they needed the value meal to come back because things had gotten so expensive. But Lou, I know we were talking about the stock earlier, hasn't really reflected the extra demand in there. I will end on a light note. McDonald's is trying something really fun. In 500 stores, they're doing a sample test before they roll this out nationwide. Right now, it's in Colorado and Wisconsin, and the CEO said in September it's performed really well. They're testing like crafted sodas and refreshers. So there's a vanilla cold brew, a vanilla frappe, a strawberry watermelon refresher, and a popping tropic refresher. So they're trying to use those gimmicks to bring people in during sort of the low period when people aren't going in for a breakfast or a lunch. We'll have to see how it does.
Yeah, you call it gimmicks. I don't ever think of McDonald's brand associated with anything craft and high quality. It's just not. It's value.
But this is not about just restaurant chains and GLP-1 drugs. Even the consumer staple stocks have not been doing well. And Charles mentioned this, that 32 of the 37 consumer staple stocks are in the red. Only one is up more than 1%. And if you look at the, in the S&P, they're not performing well, and it does suggest a rolling recession. And I've heard this over and over again, that if not for the spending on the AI data centers, we would be in a recession.
No, that's not true. If you look Q1 of this year, AI data centers accounted for the majority of GDP growth. Q2, you saw pretty much every other segment. This is more a classical rotation in a bull market. Consumer staples should not perform well in a bull market when tech is doing well, when financials are doing well. They do best when we get into a bear market, but it is something to pay attention to. But this is a defensive sector. You'd expect to see this going up as the markets are correcting and on the brink brink of a bear market. So I think it's indicative of multiple trends, and it's just like trying to put a finger on what's going on with the consumer. We've been doing that for 12, 24 months. There's no clear signal, but it's definitely a concern, because if the consumer rolls over and stops spending, then that's going to be a bad harbinger for the economy.
I think the key is in the name, the value meal, and that it's not a value anymore, and people don't see fast food as a value. They're sticker shocked actually by it. And so, they're still eating something they have to eat. They're just figuring out, other alternatives for themselves.
There's always the a la carte option of a snack wrap.
Those aren't even that good. You talked about these new refresher drinks, and one, it seems like they're trying to be like Starbucks, and two, here's actually a simple fix that would attract more customers. Instead of putting out all these refreshers, switch to beef tallow to do your French fries in, right? That's extremely popular among my generation,
absolutely,
especially on social media. So that's one way to bring back that younger generation who's trying to be more health conscious while giving them your product and making them feel like they're not killing themselves.
At least they haven't tried to update their logo or anything and ruin it.
I'm going to dig my McDonald's coffee cup out of the garbage, but I have at least one black coffee from McDonald's every single day. I buy it through the app because you get a great deal. I have cut back on my Starbucks. I rarely ever go to Starbucks anymore, and I get the McDonald's coffee. Maybe these refreshers will be a cheaper alternative for people. Maybe that's what they're trying to do over, presenting craft drinks like they're something that they're not.
It's not a raging bull market when private credit and private equity firms are in the toilet.
I agree. That's why they're
Blue Owl is down
Yeah.
14% in the last 6 months. I could go on, but I'm just saying that what we're seeing the consumer companies and restaurant chains saying is showing up in stocks.
Listen, there's cracks. The private credit, you've been early on that, and I think you've been dead right. The fact that they want to get access to 401k money to bail them out is really the bridge. So I think it's a terrible idea. It's a sign of weakness to come, but not yet.
I might have been out for a long time, but to me, coming back, it feels like there's more and more talk than I've heard in a while about the K-shaped economy. And Dagan, I think you alluded to this, the top 10% are spending half of it, or supporting half of the spending. And I feel like the bottom half in that K-shaped recovery is getting worse and worse. And we could bring this back to the election, right? We could debate on whether socialism is the answer to that, but affordability seems top of mind more than it's ever been, particularly
These are the lingering effects of inflation, right? The wage growth was just enough to keep ahead of inflation so that you can maintain your level, but we haven't seen, as inflation's cooled, wage growth accelerate where the average American is doing better. They're just not.
Inflation cooled, the prices stayed up. They never came down.
Yeah, it's the rate of change cooled. Yeah, you're right.
Brianna, we're waiting for the one big beautiful bill to kick in.
Yeah, and I feel like Republicans have a very short window. They have 1 year that they have power to not only work to actually bring the prices down where people can feel it, because egg prices are down, gas prices are down, and I do think there's a big disconnect. I saw on CNN the other day, someone said, well, egg prices are still up, and Scott Jennings had to say, actually, they're statistically down. So there's a disconnect with the messaging that Republicans are doing that they need to get on board with before 2026, and there's other things like with the big beautiful bill that are going to take some time to be implemented, and it might be too late.
I heard somebody on Instagram refer to, with Mondani getting elected as the mayor, it's still going to turn into an economy in New York City of people who either order DoorDash or deliver DoorDash. You're looking at Pinterest.
I can't afford the delivery fees.